these freshwater pockets are the only access we have in the Yucatan to fresh water. All rain that falls in the Yucatan flows through the limestone down into this freshwater layer below the limestone and creates essentially an underground river. So very unique to this area. You won't see lakes, ponds, rivers. You will only find cenotes. Because the entire peninsula is soft limestone, we know that at one point in time, this entire area was below sea level. We were underwater. All of that limestone was beautiful coral reefs. That sea level dropped over time, exposing all of that rock to the elements, and rain and water movement over the peninsula caused that very soft, porous limestone to slowly degrade. It made these little cracks and crevices that eventually opened up into bigger spaces, collapsed upon itself, and left these pockets within the rock that we call caves. So within those caves, which were at this point in time dry, we also had mineral deposits from water movement down through the limestone itself. So that water movement left behind minerals that formed over thousands and thousands of years, stalactites, stalagmites, and columns, beautiful cave formations like you see in other dry caves around the world, Carlsbad Caverns, for example, very similar to what we find here. The difference is that sea level eventually rose back up and flooded these cave spaces. So all of the caves that we have here are full of water. Now, we have two different types of water happening. You can see from that photo, we have the fresh water sitting on top of the salt water because it is less saline, right? Less dense. So where those two waters meet and mix, you'll experience a halocline. And where you find the halocline depth-wise is going to vary based on where in the peninsula you are. So the closer you are to the ocean, the shallower you will find that salt water. And as you move inland through the peninsula, that halocline is going to get deeper and deeper. Lucky for us, there are several places, several caverns where you can experience a halocline, swim to or through this blurry saltwater layer. If you've never seen one before, it has kind of a disorienting effect as those two different salinities swirl together. It's a very cool experience. And so now that you understand what a cenote is, let's talk about why they're so cool, specifically in this area. So throughout the entire Yucatan Peninsula, we have enormous cave systems, like the photo that you guys can see on the right. Like I said, the whole peninsula is limestone, very porous. So that leads to the formation of these extensive cave systems, which are now flooded. Divers became very intrigued by the amount of cave here. And in the 1980s, people began to explore the cenotes and map out these cave systems. Today,
hey, Kristen.
Yes.
Can you give us a quick timeout while our food is delivered to us?
Absolutely.
Quick pause. Everyone, bathroom break. Okay. Okay, continue.
Okay, back to it. Enjoy your food, everybody. So underwater exploration began in this area in the 1980s. Today, there are hundreds of miles of explored and mapped cave within this area. So the left map, every single one of those little blue dots is a known cenote opening. So as you can see, lots of little blue dots. There's estimated to be around 10,000 individual cenotes within the Yucatan Peninsula. And those vary in size from very, very small holes in the earth to very large lake-like openings that expose that fresh water below. The bigger the cenote usually means the bigger the cave, and those are the types of places that we will be diving. On the right map, this is System Sak-Aktun. This is the longest flooded cave system in the world. That little white spot on that map is Tulum. So we are located right at the base of it, which means we have lots of access to lots of cenotes very close to us. And we will, in fact, be diving in some of those cenotes that connect to that larger cave system. So we know that these cenotes lead to the caves, but we're not going cave diving. So how do we distinguish between cave and cavern diving? So the cavern zone is defined as the natural light zone of a cave system. So it's essentially the opening of a cave. Now, in this diagram, you can see that nice large open water area. That means you have direct access to the surface above you. As you move into the overhead space, you enter the cavern. Locally, we practice certain standards that limit how far we can go within this space, specifically that we will never be more than 200 feet from that open water. So a very short swim back to open water to reach the surface. We also will always be able to see natural light within this space, as the cavern zone is defined as being where you can see natural light from. All of the dives that we do in the caverns here are designated cavern diving sites, which have a fixed cavern line in place that we will follow to explore the caverns. So there's no navigating in these spaces. There is a designated route, much like you might take a trail through the woods. There is a cavern line through the cavern zone. You will follow your guide will follow that line so that we never go beyond that 200 feet into the cave. So cave diving is what happens beyond this cavern zone, in which you are either more than 200 feet from the open water or you can no longer see that natural light. These caverns are very big spaces, so large open water areas with large cavern zones, big enough that you could drive vehicles through. Some are big enough you could land a plane inside. Not that I recommend either of those things, but we're talking about very big chambers within the earth. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the reasons that I personally prefer cavern diving to ocean diving. Shock, awe. So I love cavern diving. We are very spoiled by the visibility. I often call it limitless. It is very crystal clear water because all of it has been filtered through that limestone rock that has pulled out a lot of the debris and sediments that sometimes reduce our visibility as divers. The photo that I have on this slide, the photographer who took this is over 50 feet away, and you can see us in the middle ground and more cenote behind us. So essentially you can see as far as you can see. One of the other perks of cavern diving is that we never have weather cancellations. So no matter what time of year it is, we are not affected by storms. The trip that I have planned for you guys happens to be in dry season in January, so very low chances of rain. But should we have a shower pop up, it's never going to affect our ability to access the cenotes. We have no waves, the visibility and the currents will not change. These cenotes are very low flow and very easy diving. Another thing that is constant year-round for us is the water temperature. It's a very steady 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're like me and you get cold easily, I do recommend a 5mm full-length wetsuit, but most people are fine with a 3mm full length, and some brave souls do use shorties and or board shorts and rash guards. I'm not that person personally, but it is a nice constant temperature and very enjoyable for the types of dives that we do. In addition to great water conditions, we also have really interesting features that we see while inside these caverns. So you'll have these magnificent beams of light that will reach from the surface to the depths of your cenote, shining curtains of light, these ancient geological formations, stalactites and stalagmites that you're going to be weaving in between. Certain sites do have the halocline to experience that blurry water, and some cenotes even have hydrogen sulfide layers. This is probably not something many people have experienced before. Hydrogen sulfide is a gas that is naturally emitted by decomposers as they're breaking down organic material, leaves, and branches that have fallen into the cenotes. That white gas gets trapped by the weight of the water, sometimes even the salinity of the water, and begins to form a nice layer that we locally refer to as a cloud. These are very cool features and not something that you'll find many other places on the planet. So in this overhead environment, we are going to find that some of the rules that you're used to from your common ocean diving practices don't apply. So what do those look like? In the caverns, you are not allowed to bring knives, gloves, and snorkels. So you guys can leave that equipment at home. It's not permitted here. Save the space in your luggage for souvenirs. We will not need those things. We're gonna want to make sure that our equipment is nice and streamlined so that we don't damage or impact the environment. And on that same note, we of course never want to intentionally damage or impact the environment by touching or breaking formations or carving, writing names, initials into the rock or the sand. Unlike corals, which do grow slow, the rock formations here never regrow. They are now covered in water, and so they can no longer accumulate minerals. So broken formations do not come back. So we want to be very mindful as we move through these spaces that we leave them just as nice as we found them. Within the caverns, you are required to dive with a cavern guide, and you're in luck because I am one of those. So your guide is always going to lead the group, and all of the divers are going to follow a guide, single file through the cavern, following the cavern line. Group size is limited to a ratio of 4 divers per guide to ensure proper supervision while we're underwater together. So for this trip, if we have more than 4 divers join us, we will have more guides join us as well to stay within that ratio. Another thing that's going to differ slightly from the ocean is our gas or air management. So you'll begin each dive with a nice full tank of 3,000 PSI. And then we are going to use what's known as the rule of thirds to determine how we use that gas. So for you, with a tank of 3,000 PSI, you have 1/3 or 1,000 PSI for your trip into the cavern, 1/3, 1,000 PSI for your way out of the cavern, so that we all end up back on the surface with 1,000 PSI reserved in our tanks. In addition to that, as your guide, I will also have 2 tanks on me. All guides will have 2 tanks on them for even extra gas reserve, just in case. So All of the safety information will of course be repeated to you when you arrive here at your first cenote. We're going to do a very thorough briefing on the rules as well as the dive site itself. So you'll see these signs posted at every cenote that we visit. In addition to these, we have a few more differences or keynotes. So as I said earlier, we're going to be in the natural light zone. You will be able to see natural light from any point on a cavern line. If you don't see light directly in front of you, that is because you're swimming away from the opening. The light will be located behind you. I'm going to show you some really awesome photos and videos that might feel dark, and it's simply because the camera is facing away from that open water behind them. As we move through the caverns, we want to make sure that we have really good buoyancy so that we don't interact with the environment unintentionally. And that includes being really mindful of our finning or kicking techniques so that we don't disturb the sediment and the visibility for those divers behind us in line. All of these spaces that we swim through are nice, wide open, and large to fit multiple divers and dive groups at the same time. And of course, we're going to follow and stay on a cavern line and stay within the cavern zone. We're never going to enter cave. So if you think that you're interested in this type of diving, when would be a good time to join? This January. So I have organized a very exciting trip for you guys. It is 8 days, 7 nights here in Tulum, Mexico. Packed with lots of fun activities for you. So the trip includes all of the things you see here. It will have 5-star private Airbnb accommodation for those 7 nights that is private for just your group. It will include your return airport transfer to and from that Airbnb. It will include 4 cenote cavern diving days. Those are 2 dive or 2 tank days, as well as 1 ocean diving day, which is also a 2 tank, 2 dive day. At the very end of the trip, there will be a dry day with a tour to a set of local Mayan ruins. And all of these tour days and dive days include everything you need to make the activities happen. So we're always going to include your tanks and weights, packed lunches, plenty of snacks, water, beverages for you as we go, staying fueled, staying hydrated. We are going to provide personal transport to and from each of the dive sites, and all of the cenote entrance fees and boat fees for those dive days are included within this package. So I want to show you what your accommodation could look like. As I said, it would be a private Airbnb specifically for your group. It's going to be a gated space that only you have access to, and each individual traveler or couple traveling together will have their own private room. That will be a minimum of a queen bed, could also be, as you see in the photo, 2 queen beds or 1 king bed, depending on exactly where we are staying. This will also have some communal areas for you guys to hang out after the dives and talk about all of the exciting things you did each day. You will have living and dining spaces, as well as either a full kitchen or individual kitchenettes, and outdoor spaces to enjoy, pool, sun deck. I want you guys to be able to soak up the beautiful January weather here in Mexico.
Kristen?
Yes.
I'm seeing everyone's picture, but not what you're presenting.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Can you see it in the restaurant?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, that's so interesting. Sorry about that, Craig.
Oh my goodness. Did everybody, okay, let's work on this.
Hey, Shushan, I'm on my phone and I can see everything.
You can see everything?
Yes, ma'am.
So is there anyone else who cannot see what she's presenting on the screen?
You're missing some really pretty pictures, Craig.
I know.
Craig, one of the things that could help is you could leave and come back again. I know that sometimes cameras get weird or Teams gets weird. Do you want to log out and then log back in again? And
Yeah.
Craig, were you seeing anything before?
Oh, yeah, I was.
Okay, why don't you log out and then log back in and we'll see if we can restart it for you.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
He was one of the first to join. I wonder if it timed him out.
It can definitely do that. All right, let's hope we can get back in. Kristen, while we're waiting for him, I forgot to hit record until you were talking about cenotes.
So I have a recorded video in case we had technical difficulties, and I can send you that so you can kind of splice that.
Fantastic. Yeah, and if it's, I didn't miss much. All right, yay, it worked. When in doubt, log out and log back in. So Kristen, at the end, just show the, all I missed was where Tulum is. That's all I missed.
Oh, okay, easy.
Okay, continue.
All right, we got Craig back?
Yep, we do.
Yes, sure.
Fantastic. All right, so we chatted about accommodation. So now I'm going to talk about what a typical tour day will look like. So on this trip, we take care of all of the logistics for you. So you will have pick up directly at your doorstep at the Airbnb each morning by me and any other guides. We'll make a short drive to our first dive site of the day, typically 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what dive sites we're visiting that day. At the dive site, we're going to get familiarized, do a very thorough briefing, get all of our equipment set up, and do good buddy checks before we enter the water for dive 1. Our dives are typically 45 to 50 minutes, again, depending on the dive site and gas consumption, but you can expect nice long dives each day. After the first dive, we'll take a nice surface interval, have some lunch, rehydrate, warm back up in the sunshine before we possibly move to dive site number 2. I say possibly because some dive sites do have 2 different lines at them. Some of them do not. So again, whether or not we move depends on where we're going that day. But if it's a move, it's usually a short one, another 10 to 15 minutes in the truck. At dive site number 2, we repeat. We get all of our gear reassembled, go through another dive site briefing, do our good buddy checks, and hop in the water for dive 2. At the end of the day, we break down all of our equipment, load the trucks back up, and return you all back to your Airbnb. And then you have the afternoon free to explore Tulum. So whether you walk around town or you hang out at the Airbnb, enjoy the pool, take a hammock nap, whatever you want to do in Tulum. In the evenings, you guys can go get dinners together as a group. I will create a list of my favorite restaurants in town, and I always pick accommodation in places where you have easy access to restaurants, pharmacies, grocery stores, any of the amenities you could need while you're here. So that you can enjoy Tulum. Since it will most likely be many of your first time doing cavern dives, there is a pre-established order in which we need to dive the cenotes, so an order that we need to follow. So some of those dive sites will look like this. This is Casa Cenote, beautiful mangrove lined cenote. This is one of my personal favorites. And this is usually where we go for our very first dive here. So on day one, we're going to start at a level 1 cenote. The cenotes do have levels similar to the way that ski slopes have a ranking system from level 1 on up in terms of their, not necessarily their difficulty, but maybe the experience level that you need to dive them, how large the open water area is, how decorated the cavern space is, and how close you come to formations, or how far you go into the cavern, of course, never exceeding that 200-foot cavern limit. So day one, we begin nice and easy. We'll go to a dive site, probably Casa Cenote, for what I call a shakedown dive. We're going to make sure all of our equipment is working properly after the travels. We're going to get properly weighted, do some buoyancy checks, make sure everything feels good and comfortable. And then we're going to work our way slowly into overhead spaces. So we'll always start in a nice large open water area, like the areas you see here. Casa Cenote is long, almost river-like, as it kind of winds through these mangrove forests. It's also unique in that it's a brackish cenote. It's very close to the ocean and therefore is a mix of salt and fresh water. And because of that, it's a very interesting mix of fresh and saltwater species. So very cool wildlife at this dive site as well. We'll go through those open water spaces and eventually work our way into some smaller overhead spaces and swim throughs as we go. So this is a very good warm up to get comfortable with diving in cenotes as we work on towards other caverns. So after our first day of diving, we might head to dive sites like Dos Ojos. This is one of the most popular dive sites in Tulum, as it has lots of very large formations and very big open chambers to explore. The fun bit about Dos Ojos is that there are actually 2 lines here, so we can do 2 dives, which feel very different in terms of what they look like and how much light we see. So this is a very fun space to explore. Unlike Casa Cenote, it is completely freshwater, as most of the cenotes that we'll be going to are. So I have a whole list of amazing sites I want to share with you guys, but instead of talking you all through them, I think it's easiest just to show you a little bit about what this looks like. If I can get this video full screen for you. Awesome. A little bit of what you can experience if you come join me for some cavern tours. In addition To those cavern diving days, as promised, there is one ocean diving day included in this package. And to your luck, it is a bull shark dive. So in the winter, the pregnant female bull sharks come into the warm, shallow waters near Playa del Carmen, which is about 45 minutes north of Tulum, to hang out until they give birth and return to the open ocean in the late winter, early spring. This is a very exciting dive as it allows you to get very up close and personal with these animals while you are here on this trip. In addition to a bull shark dive, we will follow it with a drift dive on the reef, specifically the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, which is the second largest barrier reef system in the world after the Great Barrier Reef. So on the second dive, you will see more of the reef itself, lots of corals, tropical fish and invertebrates, lots of colorful critters you've seen in other places in the Caribbean you may have been diving. This ocean day is going to be sandwiched in between those other cenote days, so that we're going to end on a cenote, which means we end in fresh water and you don't have to rinse your dive gear before leaving. And on our final day in town, you'll have a dry or semi-dry day where we've planned a Muyil Ruins tour and lagoon float for you. So Muyil Ruins is an archaeological site about 25 minutes south of Tulum, very close to where the new Tulum airport is. You will have a local guide who will provide you with a tour of the site, give you a little bit of background on Mayan history and culture, and explain the sites that you're looking at. After seeing the ruins, you will head right next door to the Muyil Lagoon, which is part of a larger protected area known as Cien Kaan Bioreserve. So because you're in a protected space, there is lots of wildlife here, tropical birds and butterflies. If you're really lucky, maybe some monkeys or a coati. And you'll take a boat tour through the lagoon, through all of the little channels until your captain drops you off to spend the rest of your afternoon doing a lazy river float, like you can see in the picture here. So this is the plan for that final day of your trip, a nice way to off gas before flying home on the 9th. And on top of all of these wonderful activities and amenities that we've planned for you, there are a couple additional perks that are worth mentioning here. Probably the most exciting of those being the advanced certification. So you can do your advanced training while on this trip in Tulum for the only additional cost of the PADI materials and the processing fee of the certification itself. So a very small fee to accomplish a course that many of you may be looking forward to taking. You can also add things like nitrox fills, rental equipment as needed, and if the group would like, a professional underwater photo shoot so that you can take some of those memories home with you. Not included in this trip are the airfare and travel expenses of getting to Tulum, your meals before and after the tours, but as promised, I will provide you with recommendations for breakfast and dinners. You will eat well while you are here. And cenote, GoPro, and camera fees. So not every cenote, but some cenotes do have an additional charge that you will have to cover if you would like to bring a GoPro or camera with you. Ranges from about $5 up to about $25, depending on the size of the camera you bring, with smaller cameras like GoPros being on the cheap end of that spectrum, and bigger, larger professional setup style cameras being on the higher end. So if any of you are planning to bring bigger dive equipment, make sure that we touch base beforehand so I can give you, guesstimate on pricing to expect when you get here for bringing that camera into the cenotes with you. And the last thing not included is gratuity for your dive guides. So that is all the information I have to provide for you guys for right now. It's certainly not everything I could talk about, but I do want to provide you all with the opportunity to ask me questions about cavern diving or about the trip details in general. And if you're looking for more information, please check out this QR code. It links directly to the travel page for this trip and has all the nitty-gritty details. Thank you guys so much for your time and for inviting me to join today. And I'm very, very excited about the opportunity to dive with you all.
So Kristen, we'll keep you on for a little bit. Thank you for showing the QR code. That QR code will take you to a page that we've created for this trip. Now, this trip is a little bit different in that we are taking pre-registrations for this one. We want to know who is interested in doing this. The trip is scheduled, but we want to know what the interest level is for everybody. Also, we put the price where we put it. If you get lucky, we might get, it might be less. I don't know. But right now it's $29.95. That includes everything that Kristen talked about. But if you would like to, if you are serious about wanting to do this trip, we'd love to get you pre-registered. There is no financial commitment at this point because, sorry, I'm talking to you guys too. I forget. Because we're just trying to see an interest level for everybody. Okay. So this QR code will go to our registration page. And then if you register there, then I'll be in contact with you all later. Kristen, another thing well, let's go for questions. And then I want you to just show us on your first slide where exactly Tulum is one more time so I can get that recorded.
I can do that.
Okay, I'm going to ask my group first, and then we will take the online people. You speak loud, yeah. Otherwise, I'll repeat.
What type of wildlife there in?
What type of wildlife are in the Cenotes?
Oh, that is a great question. I didn't touch upon it because I don't want you to have expectations that it's the same amount of wildlife as the ocean. Admittedly, it's not. But there are freshwater fish. We have small tetras and mollies, catfish. There are various types of invertebrates, including cenote shrimp and very, very tiny amphipods, isopods, as you go kind of deeper into the caverns. And there's a couple other things that we have the potential to see. Bigger sites like Casa Cenote have more wildlife. So in addition to those little fish, you might also find swimming blue crabs, snook, tarpon, those very big silver ocean fish, and other things like that.
Kristen, can you touch base on how much we would budget for, I know breakfast, we would just go to a grocery store because we're it's basically in Tulum, right?
Correct.
Which is a relatively small town. So we would just get, can we walk to a grocery store?
You can absolutely walk to a grocery store, or at the very least, a convenience store.
Okay,
and 7-Elevens everywhere.
And then, so what is the average for a dinner?
Price point. So for a dinner, it's going to depend on where you go, but in central, downtown Tulum, you're looking at anywhere from 25 to 50 US for a standard night out. You can absolutely find cheaper places. If you want to try some taco carts, I know where the best ones are. You can also find very upscale dining. And as you move closer to the beach, those menu values will grow higher than that. So you can find a very wide range, but I'd say your average price is 25 to 50 USD per dinner, with breakfast being a little bit cheaper than that.
Okay. And that's for like a sit down dinner.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions from you guys? Online people?
Hey, Kristen, a logistical question.
Yes.
Do we take our gear back to the Airbnb with us, or do you guys take care of that, or how does that work?
That is a very great question. My goal is to take care of that equipment for you, but it will kind of depend on which accommodation exactly we pick and whether or not there is room there for your equipment. If there's a comfort level in terms of that, if you'd prefer to take your equipment home with you, we can find ways to make that work. And alternatively, if you don't want to fuss with it once you're done diving, we can arrange so that you don't have to.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, how do you do entries? That's a good question.
As in entries into the water?
Yeah.
That also varies by cenote. Typically, it's going to be a seated entry or a giant stride entry.
So what where do we gear up?
Great question. So fun thing about cenote diving is that it is shore diving. So we are not using boats. You're using your guides and their work vehicles to get you from place to place. So we're going to park our trucks in the parking lot. Sometimes that is very close to the cenote. Sometimes it is a little bit farther of a walk, but we will get all of our gear organized at the truck. For those who might have any extra needs in terms of carrying equipment, we can make arrangements or set up gear closer to the water to avoid carrying heavy equipment over a distance. But typically we gear up at the trucks, we get all of our equipment on, carry fins and mask, and we walk to the cenote. It's worth noting, these cenotes are located in the beautiful jungles here. While most of the cenotes have paved or constructed paths, some of them can be a little bit bumpy, some rocks, some roots. So we always want to be nice and mindful as we walk to make sure that we get down to that water safely.
And how do you weight yourself? Like, I mean, is it if it's salt water and brackish water, do you weight yourself for fresh?
So for brackish, like Casa Cenote, you're going to need about 2 to 4 extra pounds over the rest of the freshwater cenotes. But for any of those cenotes where we will meet a halocline, we will be deep enough that you won't need extra weight to make it into the saltwater. So you just use your freshwater weight. And we will do weight checks to make sure everybody is properly weighted, but it usually ends up being less weight than most people think.
Kristen, what are the depths of these cenotes?
Very great question. The average depth, honestly, is quite shallow. Most of the caverns, the average depth is anywhere from 15 to 30 feet. Now, there are deeper cenotes or in deeper caverns. So there are some sites that may have an average depth closer to 50 feet or so. And then there are 2 dive sites that are advanced sites where they have a maximum depth of 100 feet. So those spaces do exist here, but most of the cenotes in general are actually relatively shallow.
Donna, what was your question?
The same question.
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. All right, great.
It's a good one.
Any other questions? Anyone? Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, what we're going to do now is actually, Kristen, can you put the Tulum map
yes.
back up there just really quick so we can get location going? And the airport, it's an international airport now, right?
It is an international airport, and that opened in 2024. So it's a very new, very clean airport.
Yep. And it's amazingly easy to get to. It's pretty stunning. Like, I used to live in Colorado, so it's just right down the road from Colorado.
I do have another.
Yes. Yep. I wanted to ask that question too. So about the bull sharks.
Yes.
Where do they rank on being aggressive?
That's also a valid question. I know that they tend to have a bad reputation. That's usually male bull sharks. All of the bull sharks that come into Playa del Carmen in the winter are pregnant females. They're, I don't want to say uninterested in humans, but they don't really mind us. We're about the same size as them. Out of curiosity, they will swim near you, but they're rather uninterested in you in terms of a food source. So I have never witnessed nor even heard of any aggressive behavior or encounters from the bull sharks. These tours have been happening for decades. The tour guides that I use personally in Playa do not feed the sharks, though some companies do. So we will never be around any feeding events or things that are likely to kind of incite that aggressive behavior.
Hmm. Do they ever get into the cenotes at all?
The bull sharks, no.
Okay.
Okay.
So there is Tulum and there is the international airport, and I'm assuming when I was looking, in fact, there is now a direct flight. They have direct flights from it was someplace like Charlotte to Tulum, Dulles to Tulum. I mean, it was crazy. I couldn't believe that the East Coast is actually doing direct to Tulum, which is shocking.
Yeah.
For a reasonable price.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Kristen, we were there.
Did you hear that?
I'm so sorry. I
Okay.
didn't.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Sorry.
So, you know how we talked about, my husband and I were there 30 years ago and saw it was a little fishing village, basically is what
Yeah.
it is. So, you know, we literally drove through it on that dirt road. Is there anything left of that fishing village, or is it all major resorts?
That's hard for me to say as I don't have that perspective. My first time in Tulum was when I moved here. So I don't have the range, but I imagine, based on the growth I've seen in the 5 years that I've been here, is that it will feel very different as a location to people who have visited it 10, 20, 30 years ago. It has expanded quite widely, more hotels, restaurants, accommodation. It has kind of had this tourism boom where it's become a hotspot, not only for people on short-term vacations, but also for people moving here for longer stays. Not necessarily full residency, but people who like to come down in the winter, have the ability to work remote, and will stay during those nicer months. So my best guess for you is that it will feel and look very different. I still think it has pieces of that small town magic, if you will. It's one of the reasons I really like Tulum, is that even as it grows, it still maintains this small town feel. And the community is very interwoven here. So we love our friends, we love our neighbors. People are very kind and very helpful, and people are very welcoming to locals and tourists alike.
Right. So it's not like Cancun, where
It's not as large as Cancun. It's not even as large as Playa del Carmen, if people have been there, but it is much bigger than it was a few decades ago.
okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, with that being said, I am going to move to our business now, if you guys are okay with that. We would love to have everybody stick around. So I'm stopping the recording right now. We'd